Week 12 of the NFL, and it is 7:30 on a Sunday. You know what that means. Kevin Bunk, Michael Merlo coming to you for BTO Media every week, this time on the Sunday recap. Mike, action-packed Sunday today. One of those Sundays where you just sit there, game after game after game, and say, I'm so glad football's on.
Yeah, it was a great Sunday. I just told you I finally bought the Sunday ticket. I've been watching Red Zone a lot, and I was like, you know what? Let me just get the Sunday ticket. It's like $80 for the rest of the year, and it's one of the better decisions I've ever made in my life.
All right, let's start here with the Cowboys and Commanders.
Sure.
And I will let you take the floor.
So last week, on this show, we went through, I had said, I don't think the Commanders are going to make the playoffs. And then you said, I'll let you take it back if we go through the schedule because it's a cakewalk. And I kind of took it back a little bit. I was like, all right, it is a cakewalk. They probably will make the playoffs. And the next day, I'm driving to school, and I said, I shouldn't have taken that back because I really don't think the Commanders are that good. And they could lose a couple of these games that they're supposed to win. And this Dallas game was the exact game we were talking about here where it's a must game. We watched Dallas on Monday night, Kevin. That was a putrid, disgusting performance. For them to go into Washington and beat this team, what an abysmal day for the whole organization in Washington.
Yeah, really bad. And where I'll go with this is two things. One, first of all, crazy finish in this game. Let me go there first. Crazy finish, the McLaurin touchdown, terrible job by Dallas there, and then the missed extra point, and then another bad job by Dallas, but you can't blame them for running in the onside kick. A slide there, game is definitely over, but you can't blame a special teams defensive guy for wanting to run in that touchdown. It is what it is. 8-point lead. They end up holding on. But where I'll go with this is the coaching staff first. And the coaching staff, I had said, even if they make the playoffs this year, win 11, 12 games, maybe even win a playoff game, if they were to do that, you don't feel great about Dan Quinn and Cliff Kingsbury moving forward. I'm sorry, I don't. And we've seen these guys as head coaches. We've seen Quinn without Shanahan. Now he has a far worse version of Shanahan, but still a productive offensive coordinator in Kingsbury. So first, what happens if that guy gets a job? Second of all, I just don't love Kingsbury long-term. And the other place that we've been kind of beating around the bush, but last few weeks we've been really getting more into it, is Jaden Daniels. And just how great has he been? Should we pump the brakes here? And this was definitely the week to confirm what we've been saying, that good quarterback. Washington fans should definitely be excited. We would be if we were Washington fans, so we can't take that from them. We're not trying to. But let's pump the brakes on Daniels as this great superstar quarterback.
Right. If this was my guy, I'd be jumping for joy. And I understand why the Washington fan can feel that way. But in terms of people in the national media, like, I watch Caleb Williams and I watch Bo Nix, and I sit there and say, they throw the ball better than Jaden Daniels, at least right now. Maybe the better athlete is Daniels. I don't even know that with the way that Caleb Williams has looked the last 2 weeks running the football. But yeah, I would take. I definitely would take Caleb over Daniels. I don't think I would take Nix yet, but it might be getting close. I know the numbers don't reflect what I just said, and we're going to talk about Caleb Williams more in a little bit, but you're 100% right. We anointed Jaden Daniels to this just CJ Stroud level rookie when that was never the case. And just because we saw it last season doesn't mean we're going to see rookie quarterbacks come into this league and have that same kind of success. That's a one-off kind of thing, and it probably won't happen for a little while.
No, it doesn't happen every year. We see it every few years. Justin Herbert. A few years before that was Baker Mayfield. Then we see CJ Stroud. I think the interesting thing with these rookies that got drafted, and I want to know if you agree with this, but out of the guys who have played, the four who have played, so take McCarthy and Penix, Atlanta, Minnesota out of the equation, I think all four teams are probably pretty happy with the guy they got right now.
I would think so.
Or at least optimistic. Like, New England right now with May, you're not winning games. He's turning the ball over. So maybe you're not super pumped right now, but you got to say, you know what? I think we got a future here, though.
100%. I mean, there's a reason why they didn't want to start this guy right away, and you're seeing those reasons. Their offensive line's terrible. They have no weapons. They probably don't have their future head coach. So there's really nothing right going on within that organization except for the quarterback.
All right, so let's just finish this game out, Mike, by me asking you, is Washington, I'm not even going to say frauds at this point. They've lost the last 3. Are they even an above average team?
They're an above average team. They lack, Kevin, I've been saying, like, I'm watching this team for the last couple of weeks, and I'm like, they lack weapons on the outside. McLaurin is great, but he's inconsistent at times.
Mm-hmm.
Is the tight end. He's having a pretty good year for them. They have a couple of backs, but Robinson's always hurt, and Eckler's old. Like, what else do they have weapons-wise? They need another receiver there. Noah Brown makes a big impact for them. I mean, that's what we're dealing with. So, yeah, they need weapons. They're not going to make the playoffs. They're not.
Well, right now, let's look back at the standings here as we did last week.
They have the 7th spot, and you have the 3 NFC West teams behind them, and then the Bucs. I like all 3 of those teams plus the Bucs better than I like the Commanders right now.
Okay, that's fair. I think I'm still not. No, you know what? One of these NFC West teams
is going to get the wild card.
Are going to pop, and the other one's going to win the division. Someone in the NFC West is going to go on the run that the Commanders are not able to go on.
Yes.
Commanders, I think, win 9 games this year.
Well, it's almost 2 teams have to do that in the NFC West because we're assuming Seattle or Arizona takes the division or
that's what I'm saying. But besides that team, out of the 3 beyond the wild card right now, I think the Rams do it. I think the Rams start tonight. We'll talk about that later, though. But I think the Rams start tonight, and they go on that run. But one of those 3 teams will. Tough loss day for the Niners. We'll get to it in a little bit. But Panthers and Chiefs, quickly want to touch on this game. KC loses last week. They play another close one. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm worried about Kansas City because they played another close game. They're just in close games every single week. What I actually wanted to talk about here is I've watched him now since he got benched, and Bryce Young looks pretty good the last few weeks.
He does. Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing to come out of this game and come out of the last few weeks. He does look good. Happy for him. And hopefully Canales, is really starting to, make an impact on this kid's career, and maybe there's a future. Who the hell knows? But it was interesting. Noah Gray, I mean, Mahomes loves him, man. It's crazy. But it's not a tight game. Not worried about Kansas City at all.
Yeah, Young just made a lot of throws that reminded you of the player he was in college, why he got the number 1 pick, and they seem to have, a lot of resemblance of a functioning NFL offense. They picked up a few wins last month.
He's a young kid and he's athletic. They did this today. They got to get him out into space, use the play action, let him move. He showed you in college he could throw on the run. So, give him the nice, easy completions in front of him. I think he'll be fine.
Bryce Young, I don't know if he'll be ever the elite franchise quarterback that's winning Carolina playoff games, but there's no reason for him to not be a competent starting quarterback in the league for a decade.
Can he be the Baker Mayfield in Cleveland?
Yeah, exactly. That's what you're looking for. A guy maybe plays for a couple teams, but he shouldn't be as bad as he has been early on in Carolina. And you're starting to see that turn. All right, Titans upset the Texans today. We talk a lot about Washington. Houston feels eerily similar in the AFC.
Yeah, I think they have a little bit more of like a oomph to them, probably because they have the more experience, and yes, by 1 year, but they have a coach we really like, and the quarterback has shown you more, but they're just so banged up. I almost just throw this up as it's a sophomore slump for CJ, and again, it's just they're so banged up on the offensive line.
Yeah, they are. And if they don't get Mixon running really well, they seem to struggle a little bit offensively. Losing Diggs hurt them a lot. Collins is great. And their defense leaves some to be desired, especially when you have a defensive head coach in year 2 now. I'd like to see a little more from their defense. But Houston, they're 2 games up in the division because no one else is really very good there. But I can't help but think that they might be the worst team in the AFC playoff bracket.
They probably will be. They'll end up being the worst team. But again, and it's not that you're going to be concerned, but CJ is really struggling this season.
He is. This is bad. This is a bad. He's not having a bad season per se, but this is a concerning regression.
Well, I saw a stat. His turnover rate or his interception rate is over the last month or so. I think since week 8 it said. So yeah, last month is up there with Daniel Jones. So I mean, you don't want to be in any statistical category.
Yeah, Daniel Jones currently a free agent.
Yeah. So That's that. But I'm not gonna say, oh, for the future I'm worried about Stroud. He's gonna be fine.
All right, last week I had thought Dolphins were a playoff team. I thought they were going to win and go on a run that really put them in a spot to make the playoffs. My only discretion towards that is I don't know if any of the AFC teams actually drop out because I like all the teams in the AFC side right now, but they're 5-6. Good win today. Do you think this could be the last team in for the AFC?
It depends on how Denver finishes the rest of this year. That's obviously the one spot they're going to have to catch. I think going to Lambeau on Thanksgiving, a short week, going to Lambeau here on Thursday to play on Thanksgiving. I don't know what the weather is. Is it going to be one of those games where it's freezing cold and Miami can't move the football offensively? That'll be interesting. It's a big game. If they can prove that they can beat Green Bay on the road this week, I'll say 100% yes, they're going to be the team that gets in. But if they're at 5-7 here and you have Denver at 7-5, I'll probably stick with Denver.
5 games left in the season for Denver. They play home against Cleveland, home against Indianapolis, road Chargers, road Bengals, home against the Chiefs. There's not an easy game in that group, and that's a primetime game next week against Cleveland where they host Cleveland. Definitely one of the scarier teams at the bottom of the league right now.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a good race there. Do you think, I'll follow up with this, do you think the 7 teams in the AFC are set, though? Chiefs, Bills, Steelers, Texans, Chargers, Ravens, Broncos. Do you think any of them fall out? I'm not saying seeding-wise.
I think Denver could fall out.
Okay.
I do. As much as I like Knicks and Peyton, I think Denver could fall out. I said, it might not be fair. Their defense is great, but it might not be fair to say, I don't trust them, but that could be a team.
And Denver, it's just they're too young with Knicks and the lack of playmakers on offense. You could just see them dropping a couple close games. You could see them going 1-4 in their last 5.
I'll say this: I thought today I had the Colts getting 7.5 at home, and I thought if they could build off of the win against the Jets, I thought the Colts could have done something and made it interesting in that AFC wildcard. And they couldn't put the ball in the end zone early in the game, and it kept them out of it. But there's really no other team other than Miami here.
Listen, man, if you're playing the Lions right now, you're just running into a buzzsaw. You got no chance against Detroit right now.
Kevin, go watch the first 2 quarters of that game. I was locked into it. They were playing with them.
No, they were. Early on,
they couldn't finish drives.
I'm watching pieces of that game, and I'm saying, Indianapolis might pull something out at home. Lions are due. But Lions just get to a point where it's too overwhelming. At some point in the game, it's going to get way too overwhelming for a young team.
Detroit won the game by a lot. There were a lot of mindless penalties by the Colts. I know we're not talking about this game. I'll end it right here. Mindless penalties on big plays. The Lions won by how many points? They won 24-6, and they didn't even play their best game. That's how scary it is.
All right, afternoon game. The marquee game a week ago was 49ers-Packers. That's what you were looking at for this Sunday at Lambeau. Purdy doesn't play, and it kind of squashes the whole thing. 38-10 final. Brandon Allen stinks. He was terrible. And because of that, they couldn't get anything going on the ground. No respect for their passing game at all. Green Bay, though, look good, take care of it. My concern in this game is, are the 49ers kind of in trouble now, losing a game against a contender? They want to steal one of these games that they've lost in the last few weeks. And without Purdy, they couldn't. Are you worried about their playoff status?
Yeah, this game was a real dud, obviously, with no Purdy. I am concerned this might be a throwaway year for them. They're so banged up, and you can kind of you never want to throw a season out, right? Your veterans get older, but listen. Debo does not look like the same player. There's just so many aging veterans on this team where you might be able to just chalk it up and say, hey, you know what? This was a dud year. Guys were hurt. They'll retool whatever they can in the offseason and get back healthy. I think this season's over for them.
All right, let's move quick to the Cardinals-Seahawks game. A week after I say the Cardinals are the best team in this division. They get a division game, and they let me down big time. Awful game. I was excited to watch it. I thought we were going to get some big offense in this one. Cardinals put up 6 points, couldn't move the ball today. Kyler throws a pick, no touchdowns. Trey McBride was sensational, but other than that, it was a dud. They couldn't run the ball at all today, Arizona. Good win for Seattle. Are they now in, obviously they are because they control their own destiny, but are they in the real driver's seat for this division now? And you're saying, hey, this might be the best team.
I can't say that about anybody in this division.
Yeah.
There's nobody I feel good about other than the Rams. And I'm not going to lie to you, Kevin. I feel the complete opposite of the way you do tonight. I think the Rams are going to get run over by Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia is that much better. There is no team in this division that I feel good about. Now, with Seattle, this is the first time they've put together a couple of, 2 straight good performances, 2 huge games they're able to win. I don't, the Cardinals proved to us today. How could you feel good about them? How could you trust them? He put up 6 points. It's gross. Okay. And you mentioned how the Texans are going to be the worst team in the playoff picture in the AFC. Easily going to be the worst team. Whatever NFC West team's in, if there's 2, probably going to be both of them. They're going to be the worst teams. Unless the Rams can prove tonight they can beat the Eagles. Then the Rams are legit.
The Rams are the team in that group that I'm saying, hey, I think that they can actually make waves in the postseason. The Cardinals and Seahawks, I can't see it unless they got, because who would be their 5 matchup would right now be the Vikings. It would actually, they'd play the 6th seed, so it would be Green Bay. But either way, you're going to play the NFC North 3rd best team, and that's a tough game for those NFC West teams to win. But if you got Minnesota outdoors, if you were Seattle, I think you'd have a real shot there. But, Sam Darnold in a playoff game, how much do I trust that? Geno's playing a playoff game with Seattle. I wouldn't trust either side, so I'd just call it a coin flip and say that could go either way. But if you got Green Bay at Seattle in the first round, then that's a Green Bay win. And Seattle would go home. I think the same deal for Arizona. I just don't see as a win in the first round regardless. No. But the Rams could do it, and the Rams could win. I the NFC Championship if they win that division.
You trust the experience with them.
Trust the experience, and I just don't. It's almost my lack of trust for some of the other teams in the conference. But let's move now to the Sunday night game, and then we have to get into the disaster Giants, which we will spend a good portion of the rest of the show on. But the Sunday night game tonight, I think the Rams are going to win this. I think the Eagles are in a spot here where they've won, 6 straight now?
I think is it 6?
What were they, 4-2 or 3-2 before they?
They were 3-2. So this is 5 straight.
5 straight. They've been on a total roll. I think we're all back in this mindset of Philly is the second best team in the NFC, maybe the second best team in the NFL. I think everybody's starting to put them in that top 5 easily here. And the Rams are playing for a lot tonight. I think the Eagles just drop a little bit of a dud. They have some security in the division now. A little bit of a cushion. You don't trust Washington. So I think that they can catch the Eagles off guard, feeling a little high on themselves, and the Rams pick up a win here. I also just think the Rams are a very good team.
6 straight. My bad. 1, 2.
Come on, dude. Yeah, if I say 6 straight, it's 6 straight.
It's 6 straight. They played the Thursday night against Washington. They've had a long time to prepare here. I like this Philly team, man. Defensively, that's what's so scary about them right now. They're playing so well defensively. They're playing so well in the back end. That's where their strengths are. Mitchell's having an unbelievable rookie season, and they're starting to figure it out offensively where it's like, you know what? This offense runs through Saquon Barkley. It runs through that offensive line and will set everything else up through Saquon. Early on, they weren't giving Saquon enough touches. When they were 3-2, and it kind of just felt like they were an football team, 2-2, whatever it was, they were not running the ball enough with Saquon Barkley. Now, since they started to win, it's all Saquon. And this team is thriving because of it. This is a scary team, and I'm going to say something crazy. This is the team that takes out Detroit. This is the team that represents the NFC in the Super Bowl. It will not be the Lions. It will be the Eagles because of how good they are defensively.
That's a good take. It's a good, bold one. I've been starting to come around to it. I don't know how high.
It seems as though the coach is out of the way. It seems as though Moore is fully on the offense, and Fangio, the system, he's brand new there. This season, he's finally the DC after being the assistant with the Super Bowl. And his system takes a couple of weeks to really get comfortable in. And they found the guys that can run it well. And now it's all coming together for them defensively.
See, with Philly, right now, this is the problem I'm having with everyone at this stage of the season. We know that from now till 5-6 weeks from now, when the playoffs are actually about to start, we're going to feel a lot different about a lot of these teams. I don't actually think Philly's a team I'm going to feel different about. I think Philly's a team that I'm going to say this is a really good squad going into the playoffs, and they feel pretty well oiled right now. But when I look at the standings, it's tough to imagine that the Eagles with Nick Sirianni and Jalen Hurts, who, I like both of them actually, but I don't love either of them, will get through Detroit, Minnesota, Green Bay, and if the Rams or 49ers get in here. Yeah. I struggle to imagine that they will end up being the last team standing with that group. I also think right now, this is so illogical, but it's just this odd feeling I have every year. Detroit is playing too good right now in November. Mm-hmm. I worry about their ability to keep this up for another 8 weeks.
I get that. You don't want to get too hot at the wrong time. I do think both of these teams play a brand of football where they're so good up front that unless you have a major injury here, that's not going to change.
Yeah.
They're scared. Listen, you watch Detroit today. They're not playing their best football. They said the play action, their run game is so strong. They set up the play action. And then you have Jared Goff even on these play action passes fitting it into such tight windows. It's like, how is this possible? How is Jared Goff making these, big time throws in between defenders? They gotta listen. The one thing I worry about with Philadelphia is that I don't think the passing game has been as strong as you would like to see.
About it.
You got to throw in the postseason. You have to. So we'll see what they're able to do.
But then I look through the teams, right? And if I put Minnesota at Philly, I have a real concern about Minnesota going outdoors in the end of January
and
playing a game with Sam Darnold. They're not going to win at Philadelphia. Green Bay, the problem with Green Bay for me is Jordan Love thinks he can make every throw on the field. And that's good sometimes. That's actually good a lot of the time with a quarterback, I think. But he thinks he can make them, and then oftentimes tries to make them, and I'm just scratching my head, like, why did he throw that ball?
Yeah.
For turnovers. His turnovers are egregious in a lot of cases. So I worry about Love against Fangio and the Eagles' defense. The only team I really don't have a overwhelming concern with is Detroit, but I think you're right. I think the Eagles are the only team that can take it to Detroit up front, and vice versa. Detroit's the only team that can do it to them,
right,
and really overpower them in the trenches. Those are the only two teams that can do it to each other.
Those are the only two teams I feel good about in the AFC.
Yeah, NFC.
In the NFC, excuse me.
Yep.
Those are the only two teams.
I agree. I'm not into the rest of the NFC right now. Falcons suck. Falcons are terrible. You said the NFC West representative would be the worst team. I actually think that the NFC South representative is the worst team in the postseason this year.
I'll have the Bucks get hot here.
Bucks. You're saying Bucks are better than Atlanta.
How do you not love Baker Mayfield?
I know we're about to talk. Let's get into that game. Let's move right into that game. Bucks win 183-6 today against the Giants, whatever it was, and just a miserable game at MetLife Stadium once again. But I agree with you. How can you not love Baker Mayfield?
It's remarkable what this guy has done to his career. He's unbelievable. So we'll get it out of the way. We'll glaze the Bucks here. They do have a shot at this division. They've been so banged up, and yet they're still here. I give Bowles a lot of credit. I've never been a Todd Bowles fan, but look at the job he's done. So let's just give him credit. Now we can talk about the dumpster fire that is the Giants, and you can start here.
Well, I'll actually stay with the Bucks for 1 second.
Okay.
Just 1 second. I think when this team's fully healthy, the Bucks are just so comfortable playing together, and you can see it. I think it's a culture that Brady placed there. They won the ring, and it stayed there after him. And Mayfield had the mentality that they needed to preserve that culture. Bowles has done a very good job of keeping that team together after Arians has stepped away. And when Mike Evans is on the field and everyone's playing, Godwin was a huge loss for them this year, but they just have a way of playing together and playing fun on both sides of the ball that is really infectious when I'm watching. I love watching the Bucks. Who would have ever thought that?
Two-headed attack of the running backs.
Yeah, Irving's very good. Irving's a very good back.
What a find in the fourth.
It's amazing. This past draft, there were so many guys in the 4th, 5th round of the draft. Day 3, I mean, Tracy's one of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of running backs I feel great about that went after late 3rd round. And this was one of the worst running back classes ever going into the draft. You just felt so bad about it.
Yeah.
Looking at I mean, Jonathan Brooks was probably the best guy, and you did not feel good about him with the injury. Who, he still hasn't done anything. But yeah, good win today for Tampa. But with the Giants, man, where do you even start? How do you justify bringing any of these people back next year? I only see it as a negative.
I don't. So it's really easy to say this after a bad loss, and I'm not going to sit here and defend anything, because I think one of my biggest things was, well, if you lose the locker room, you're done. And I've stayed consistent with that. As much as I think Daboll would go elsewhere and be a good coach someday, if he loses this locker room, enough's enough. My bigger issue is Shane, right? I think Shane is more of an issue than Daboll is. So if you're going to get rid of Daboll, can we also get rid of Shane? Can we do that at least? Because usually it's the head coach that goes and the GM stays. I don't want just Shane.
But I agree with that. I am so down on Joe Shane. Like, I am down on Joe Shane more than I'm down on any general manager in the National Football League right now that is still employed now that Joe.
You were never a Shane guy either.
I have not been a Shane guy since that first draft. Didn't like the first draft. Didn't like the first offseason. And I really just haven't come around to him at all. I have so many issues with the way that this team was built. They completely misevaluated it in the spring. You saw that on Hard Knocks, which, Mike, retrospect, and even in the moment, Hard Knocks was cool to see that version of the behind the scenes.
I loved
that
it.
Time of the year. I thought that was awesome. Disaster that the Giants were the team that got picked because they look awful now. John Mara and the whole Saquon situation, Shane, everything looks terrible at this point.
It does. Because you had these, you wouldn't have had you wouldn't have this view of the Giants and how they didn't want Saquon Barkley. You know what I mean? Like, it was clear whether it's the right decision or the wrong decision. I still believe it was the right one, but like, it was clear. They laughed about it. You know what I mean? Like, Shane's sitting there laughing about it.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be it would just be Saquon's word. Oh, he didn't want me and that's it. They didn't want me and that's it. Against silence from the organization. Not the case. You saw both sides. So it really works out for Saquon here. Kevin, I'm almost left speechless because of how just terrible this organization is, how terrible the coaching is. Does Daboll get any criticism whatsoever for not wanting, for defensive coordinators not wanting to come work with him and hiring this clown from Tennessee as one of your last choices?
Yeah,
I mean, come on.
I think that this whole situation was so bad with Wink Martindale, including on Wink Martindale's side. He's not exempt from the fact that he clearly is difficult to work with as well, and he has been incredibly petty about the departure and unprofessional, I think, in some cases. But with Daboll, let's just focus on him. You talked about losing the locker room, and it feels like he completely has. Benching Jones last week, we realized Jones is not a very good quarterback. But you and I both agree, out of the guys in that quarterback room, he was the best one. That's a Shane problem. The fact that nobody competitive was in that room. Tommy DeVito stinks. We saw it today. He's not really an NFL starter. I don't even think he's an NFL backup.
Can I just say something, Kevin? Seriously, can I just say something?
Yeah.
And I saw this take from our guy, Sean Morash, on WFAN.
Don't say
okay?
Our guy.
So, can these players, for 1 second, take the friendship out of this? I understand Daniel Jones is your guy, but can you see it from everybody else's point of view that he stinks, that he is not a good quarterback in this league, that he has almost all of the physical traits, but the one trait that kid does not have is the mental. He does not see the field the way an NFL quarterback is supposed to see the field. He doesn't do the right things, and you thought he was getting better in 22, and it got completely worse into 23 and into 24. So for the love of God, can you stop crying that your friend that got paid $108 million from this pitiful organization is benched and gone and taking the blame for what is an absolutely terrible roster and season? For the love of God, can you stop crying? And can you stop blaming everybody else and figure it just don't get blown out. Don't get embarrassed. And they were embarrassing today. And if they did quit on their coach, they're as much of losers as they think the GM and the head coach are for the way they treated their friend.
Yeah, I get that point, and I don't disagree with you at all. I did think that the Giants players should have piped down a little bit as they've done nothing in the league either, right? I mean, the only guy that I really had respect for his comments was Dexter Lawrence, because you know that Dexter Lawrence is the leader of that locker room. There is not a guy in that locker room
off, Kevin.
now that Barkley's yeah, but now you have to look at it from their perspective too, though. We've been here, we win nothing. Ultra competitive group of guys. You know that in an NFL locker room, the guys are really competitive. We've been here, we've lost nothing. Saquon's gone, and Saquon was the leader of the team. Saquon was the best player on the team. So as a player in the locker room, you feel a little upset about that. But hey, here's a guy that we've been with since day one here, Daniel Jones. He's a great guy. He leads us. Now he's benched, cut, playing safety on the scout team last week. Whether we all want to say that's something that quarterbacks have to do or not is not a conversation I want to have right now. But you look at this and say, all these players leaving, we get talent that comes in too, and a guy like Brian Burns. We love our locker room. These coaches stink. This GM sucks. And Jones is the one in the media getting hung out to dry. I get it from the player's perspective to be absolutely pissed off and done with your coaching staff. I totally feel that. But I agree with both sides of it. Giants players being frustrated. What really pissed me off that Giants player said was Malik Neighbors after the game today. Listen, Malik Neighbors, you've proved absolutely nothing in the NFL. I don't care what you did the first 5-6 weeks of the season. You've proved nothing in the NFL. You're a stud receiver, but you just go into the locker room and be done with it after the game.
Right.
Move on with it. Because Dexter Lawrence is a guy that has given a lot to the Giants organization and has one of the best players, if not the best defensive player in the National Football League. Like, he's right there with any defender. Malik Neighbors, there's 20 receivers in the league I'm still taking over you right now, and that might not be the case a year from now. He might be third or fourth.
You know what, Kevin? It's with him, and this might not be right, but it's just like you expect it from a diva wide receiver. You know what I mean?
You do,
and that's what he is.
You know what, too, though? Like, shame on the Giants for unretiring a number and giving it to this guy who had never played a snap in the NFL. I wasn't really upset with it at the time, but now you do that. Shame on you for doing that, and this guy doesn't even care enough and isn't even grateful enough to the organization to not crap on his coaches after the game. That's what he did after the game.
The problem I have. That's the problem I have is crapping on the coaches. But can I say this? Was anything else wrong? I don't want to defend him, but did he say any other than crapping on the coaches? You should never do that. But did he say anything wrong? They were soft. But the offensive line sucked.
Say it to the guys away from the media. Door closes, media leaves. Go all in. Have a free-for-all. But there's things you say to the media, and there's the little subtle get my point across without actually saying it comments that are made. And like Illuminor today, talking about the team having no effort. It's just the fact that the team is so down in morale and on not just the coaches, but each other. Like as a team, they are so uninspired during the game, before the game, after the game. That's why I don't understand how you can justify bringing a single coach back, a single front office member back, and then you got to look to the roster and say, well, how many of these guys do we even want here?
I finally feel, after today, with the way things have gone, especially after the game, and I haven't felt this way at all. I do think they're going to get fired. I think they're going to clean house.
And let me lay this out for you. And we've kind of spoken about this, but the viewers don't hear all our conversations. The idea is the Giants draft a quarterback in the draft. They should. They're at that point. It's time to get a quarterback. You let Dable and Shane stay. You win 3 games next year with a rookie who has some moments, is a typical rookie. Has some moments, couple good games, couple bad games. Defense isn't all that good. Let them stay. You win 3 games. Fan base is calling for their heads at the end of next year. There's no defenders left. And now you're putting a rookie quarterback who probably needs a second or third year in that system to continue to grow. You're putting him with a new staff and a new system, which we see Chicago do. We see the Jets do. All these terrible teams, Cleveland, that can't develop quarterbacks, we see them do this with their young quarterbacks. We see the Giants do it with Daniel Jones. It's not, This is a very common practice in the league, and it almost always ends up badly. But you go, keep going.
John Mara cares a lot about what the media says. He doesn't directly listen to his fan base like another owner in this town, but he does care about the what's the word I'm looking for? About how he's viewed, how his organization is viewed. And right now they are viewed as, I think, the Jets didn't play this week, as the biggest dumpster fire in the league. Right? There's nobody else worse than them at the moment. And they had all this stuff with Jones.
Tough part here is, just to interject for 1 second, they're probably going to take this dumpster fire and lose at Dallas on Thursday, which magnifies it so much more on Thanksgiving. Dallas hasn't lost a home game. You drop that game, Mara is going to go from angry to absolutely livid, pissed off. Someone might get fired on Friday.
They're probably going to get fired that Friday or Saturday.
They might not lose that game, but I'm just saying, if they do, this is...
Kevin, who are they beating?
Yeah, but we thought that about Dallas last week.
Who is this team beating? I said the Giants would lose to Dallas.
But we thought this about Dallas a week ago, like today against Washington. Well, you were definitely a little more on Dallas, so than I was.
Who the hell are the Giants beating?
If they lose on Thursday, Mara is going to be like red.
And let's say they do lose on Thursday and they lose out, and nobody loses their job through the next few weeks. If they lose out, how do they keep their jobs? Unless DeVito puts up 28 points and they lose on a game-winning field goal from Aubrey. Okay, you put up an effort. They have to, at the very least, it has to be a game. It has to be a game on Thursday. And for us, where this is we're gonna watch the football game either way.
Oh yeah,
but it's like it is must watch because of the added drama now to this. It is, and it's gonna be the worst must watch football game of all time.
Is Drew Lock gonna play?
No.
On Thursday? No, it's going to be DeVito, right?
It's DeVito.
Let me just go for a little sidebar that's so irrelevant at this point. How the hell did 2022 happen? I don't even care about... Don't even tell me strength of schedule. Don't tell me anything about the teams they played or what, like the luck that factored into it. This team, roster-wise, I actually think Shane... the last 2 years has probably done a good enough job where they shouldn't have gotten worse.
It's a better roster. The last two, it's better.
They should not have gotten. They at least shouldn't have gotten worse. Maybe by a game or two. The fact that they're going from 9 wins and a playoff win to 6 wins to 2, 3, maybe 4 wins is like a total just anomaly. And if it happened in reverse, it would make sense. The fact that it's going this way is like,
how did that happen? Season, though? Remember last season, they used 3 different quarterbacks and they were in a lot of those games, right? Other than the first few with DeVito, they were in a lot of those games, last year when Jones got hurt. Mm-hmm. They ended up winning 6 games. I mean, as much as it screwed them, they were a competitive team last season. So there was never any discussion of losing the locker room. They were competitive. Those guys played hard last year. This is the complete opposite. I have no clue. The roster has gotten better the last 2 years. I mean, it's not much, right? It's like a guy that's 600 pounds losing 100 pounds in, 2 years. Like that's the equivalent, right? It's okay. You got better, but you started from absolutely terrible with the way the roster was in 22. So I don't know, Kevin. I don't know. It is really helpless, and I'm checked out. I'm done. I'm numb to it. I don't even care. I don't.
All right, let me go to this one that I wanted to touch on today too. This little topic about Joe Shane. Brian Burns. Good player. Definitely good player. You can find this guy for anywhere from 8 to 15 million in free agency or in the draft on day 2 or 3. You can. A good GM can. The fact that he is one of the highest paid edge defenders in the National Football League and the Giants had to give up resources to get him is another reason why I'm down on Shane, because I turn on a lot of other games on Sunday, as do you. There's a lot of players as impactful as Brian Burns making so much less.
Yeah, I don't have anything much to add. I mean, this is a guy that should be performing, right? This is supposed to be a really good defensive line, getting pressure, a lot of big names, a lot of high-priced players, and it's a bad job by Shane. I was excited at the time. I thought this was a good move, getting another big-time pass rusher in here. I thought that was a massive need, getting an edge in the offseason, and they filled it, but they didn't get the player they thought they were getting. You hope the next season is better. Is it a Kevin, I'm lost for words.
And then I'll go here too. Everyone talks about they didn't sign Saquon, and I think that there's some arguments that are good. There's some arguments, most arguments that are just ignorant about the Giants not signing Saquon, because we're on the same page with that. Xavier McKinney is making them look like morons. Morons. He is great. He's going to be potentially the first team All-Pro safety, and he just might find himself as the 3rd or 4th in Defensive Player of the Year voting.
Well, you know what? He's a young guy and, smart organization. The thing is, and I'll defend him for a second, I do like this kid from Minnesota they drafted, Nubin. I do like Nubin.
Nubin's good.
So it's like the guys you lost, right? In Saquon and McKinney, you drafted guys at the position later in the draft that are a lot cheaper. They just weren't like, you could argue with me and you could tell me no organization is bad enough to not let a 25, 26-year-old really good player leave the building, no matter what position they play. Because my argument would be, you can't allocate resources in their scenario to a safety, but you could come back to me and say what I just said, right? And you wouldn't be wrong, and I wouldn't be wrong.
Yeah, I agree. But it's just the fact that Xavier McKinney, who we all thought was good,
they didn't even offer him a contract.
They didn't even offer him a contract, and he leaves, and he's put in a position to go from good to dominant. Saquon Barkley, for all the obvious reasons, is put in a situation to go from great to Offensive Player of the Year great. So the Giants, it's just a clear problem of the context of the players on the field. What's around them is terrible. The situations that the coaching staff puts these players in is not prosperous. The player development is not prosperous.
The thing with Saquon is, Kevin, and you'll appreciate this, the world couldn't appreciate how good he was because of how much he was held back by the Giants.
Yeah, I agree with that. I absolutely agree with that. And it was just a disaster from day one because this guy's a 2nd overall pick that you and I will agree till the day that we are dead in the ground. He should not have been the 2nd overall pick. It's not a place you take that player. Great player, deserving of a high draft choice, probably the best running back prospect we've seen since Adrian Peterson. And he was that special. Comes to a team that needs so much, not the place for a young running back, and he's great. Right off the rip, he was a great player, and now that he is out of a situation that is so poor, he's even better than we all, considered him to be.
Just like Daniel Jones, he didn't be asked to be picked 2nd overall, like that's the one thing, and I've had to fandom. I've never really been in love with Saquon Barkley. I mean, he's a great player and you appreciate him as a fan, but it's like I didn't want him. But he didn't ask for it. Kevin, it's a mess, and we're gonna be talking about it for a long time.
Yeah, do we really think Barkley wanted to be a Giant? You're a running back. You're staring.
He probably did at the time. He did at the time. I'll bet you with Odell there and
he's
New York.
Yeah, he's a local guy to he's a Northeast
probably
guy.
Wanted. Out of all those
he probably
teams,
didn't mind.
He could have been in Cleveland. He could have been in Cleveland. He could have been in Indianapolis. The Jets were always taking a quarterback.
Situationally,
Cleveland had 1-4.
And at the time, you had Odell. Yeah, you had Odell and Eli still there at the time. So you're kind of, but I mean, either way, it's just
He's got his dad, a Jeff fan, telling him, "Hey, this is a world-class organization."
Yep.
You know,
It's tough, dude. It's tough to be a Giants fan right now because it's unfathomable that you guys are sitting here 2 years after Dable wins a playoff game, coach of the year, Jones looks good, and at the very least, we all would have comfortably said, if you had to make one safe prediction, the Giants will have competent offensive scheme and coaching for years to come. And they don't even have that. I mean, they can't even move the ball. And I think they have enough skill players to move it. You see teams moving with far less. I mean, like the Broncos, you see the Broncos doing it far less. But the offensive line and the quarterback just don't get resolved.
Yeah, they don't have the offensive line right now. And the sad part is they did early on, and it's just so beat up right now.
Andrew Thomas obviously is such an X factor for the Giants and an all-pro left tackle in general.
Shane's done a terrible job drafting offensive linemen. That's terrible.
Let's go 2 routes here with the Giants. Maybe 3 if I can think of a third. First route is the only way I'm in favor of keeping Dable. Elevate Brown, fire Shane. Dable comes, but you have to guarantee him 2 years beyond this year. He has to get 2. Mm-hmm. You cannot fire him even if they go 0-17 next year and the rookie quarterback looks horrible. You cannot fire him after year 1.
Yep.
Or complete clean slate. Coaching staff and general manager say they have the 3rd pick in the draft, and you feel good about getting one of the 2 quarterbacks you like. You're excited about the quarterbacks.
3 quarterbacks.
You're so Dable and Brown, clean slate, or Shane. I know you're not going to go for this, so I didn't want to bring it up, but I heard this one today. Shane gets to pick a new head coach.
Throw Shane to the wolves. My number one choice right now would be Brown, Dable, but I could see cleaning house.
If you were an owner and you start vetting head coaching candidates before you fire Dable, who are the guys that you would hire over him? And so where is that cutoff of, if I don't get any of these guys, I'm not going to fire him?
I haven't even. Ben Johnson obviously would be a guy. Who are the offensive guys available? I mean, I'm an offensive guy. Yeah. I would hire Vrabel. I would. I think Flores is going to do a good job again. I think Flores would have done a good job the first time with the Giants, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I thought they should have hired him that time, actually.
I don't know. Come back to me next week. I'll have coaching candidates for you next week.
Belichick, you wouldn't take over Dable.
I don't want Belichick.
It's interesting, man. It's an interesting time. How did it
get to this point? I can't wait for you guys to have Rex, though. That's going to be great.
No.
Let's go.
It's not even a possibility. It's not even possible. It's not happening. It's not. How about those antics this week, man? Just like going on every show in the country.
Jeez, I've never seen somebody sell themselves more for a job in my life.
There's no way, right? There's no way he gets it.
I don't know. How about the Raiders now? Possibly for Daniel Jones. What's his face? Gonna miss the rest of the year.
But don't you think Jones wants to go play for a contender?
Who the hell is Daniel Jones to say who he gets to go play for? Please.
He's gonna. I guarantee you, he gets at least 6 contract offers in the next 2 days.
He stinks.
He's gonna get a bunch of playoff team offers. Because if I was Jones, what I'd be saying is, all right, I'm hitting the free agent market this offseason. That's for sure. Do I want to go suck with the Raiders and not be able to catch on? Or do I want to go back up San Fran or Baltimore, whoever offers me a contract, Detroit, any of these teams that are good playoff teams, good offenses? Do I want to go back them up and see what it's actually supposed to look like, even if I don't hit the field at all?
No, that's probably what he'll do.
Because how much do you think Antonio Pierce and that coaching staff are resembling a really good staff? That's not happening behind closed doors.
No, it's not. You're right.
You want to go do what Darnold did last year
for a couple of years.
You want to say, okay, this is Kyle Shanahan. This is someone who knows how to coach. This is someone who is in an organization who is very stable. They win games. I want to see what that looks like. So when I go to free agency,
And what happens if it's somewhat similar, like the offensive schemes and stuff, and it's like, oh God.
Well, then you have to call Mara and say, you have to keep Dable because
I just suck.
He's better than Kyle Shanahan. It really was my fault.
I suck. No, it's obviously not going to be that. He does stink, though.
Goes to the Chiefs. He's better than Andy. Imagine that article a year from now when the Giants are 1-13, and they're like, well, Daniel Jones called John Mara after signing with the Chiefs and said Dable's stuff is years ahead of KC's, and Mara decided we have to keep him. That was like Peyton Manning calling the Jets for Adam Gase.
Exactly the same. Who's gonna call? Eric Mangini's gonna call Woody.
Dude, why is his name circulating? Why is Mangini's name circulating?
For GM.
Oh my God. I mean,
let's go.
Maybe as like a team president of personnel, I'd be down with. President of football ops, whatever. Jets suck.
Jets next week.
It's my bye week. It's my bye week.
Jets next week. Let's go.
Who do they even play next week?
Who the hell cares?
Let's see.
Sweet Tyrod. I cannot wait for you guys to start Tyrod. He's such a good guy, Tyrod, and he's such a good player.
I don't want to hear that. He's such a good guy.
Good guy.
Jets have
Sunday night games. Left. What time is it? I have a clock next to me. Oh, it's
8:27.
We're late. We got the Sunday nighter.
We're late. All right. Good stuff today, Mike. You're a pro. You're a pro. You're doing good stuff for the Giants organization.
We're going to do something this week, right? We're going to do something this week, baseball or something, just hopping on and talking.
This week or next. I know we have Thanksgiving and everything this week, so it's a little bit of a busy week. Yeah. But we're doing Coast to Coast Tuesday.
All right.
And then we'll
probably
jump in the week after, because the week after, the end of next week, that first week of December, the winter meetings.
Soto's going to be a Met. Yeah, about around that time.
No.
Yeah.
That's not happening next week or any week.
Yeah.
That's Soto becomes a Yankee. A month from now, he's on a baseball team. Think about that. I guarantee it. A month from now.
2 weeks from now, he's on a baseball team.
A month from now is Christmas Eve. He's already on a baseball team. And unfortunately for you won't have a Soto.
My Christmas present will be my Christmas present under the tree to Michael from Michael will be a Juan Soto jersey.
That's what all of yours say?
No, but I usually get myself one gift a year.
No one even charity throws a Santa.
I buy myself a Christmas gift a year. A year. One gift a year. Birthday, Christmas.
That's a waste.
No, it's not.
When's your birthday?
October.
Your birthday just happened.
Yeah, this is a waste right here. This guy's a waste.
Yeah, I mean, Kayvon Thibodeau, I swear to you, when I heard he was healthy and playing today after the game, I was shocked. Oh, last thing, I just wanted to ask you while we were on here. Did you see my all Jets Giants team?
I did.
Would they make the playoffs?
Yes.
No.
Too good of a pass rush. Too good of Rodgers. Daboll and Rodgers would get on the same page.
Yeah, but Rodgers still behind one of the O-lines, however you want to slice it up. No Andrew Thomas. It's just going to be a disaster. It's going to be terrible.
They would make the playoffs.
All right, we'll wrap it. Wrap it with a ludicrous thing like saying any sort of New York football team would make the playoffs. Thank you for watching. Mike, thanks for doing it every week. We love it. 7:30 every Sunday. Be here. We went long tonight, so we apologize for that, but we don't think it really inconvenienced you too much. You're not doing anything between 7:30 and Sunday Night Football. We will see you next week, same time, Tuesday, Coast to Coast. And after next Sunday recap, we will definitely have a date for a next Burrows episode where we just talk a little bit of off-season Soto, really just Soto. There's no one else even available.
Pitchers, Mets, we'll be doing that. I'll have a whole breakdown of who I need the Mets to sign the pitching staff.
All right, save it for 2 weeks from now.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. We will see you in the next one.